Aloha, Inspired Moneymakers. Welcome to another episode of Inspired Money, the live stream podcast where we explore the intersection of wealth, happiness, and purpose. Today's episode is all about you. How can you take control of your career, your growth, and your future by investing in yourself? If I have trouble today, it's because I just got back from the dentist where they fixed my tooth and part of my face is a little numb still, but I'm going to work through it. Throughout this series, we've touched on some really important topics: finding your purpose, navigating the gig economy, how AI might disrupt the way you do your job. And if there's one thing that's become clear, it's that people like you and me, we want more than just a paycheck. We want fulfillment. Think about it. How satisfied are you in your current role? According to a Gallup 2024 State of the Global Workplace report, companies are losing a mind-blowing $8.9 trillion in productivity due to low employee engagement. And if you're like 52% of employees, you might be actively seeking or at least keeping an eye out for a new job. The reality is many of us are looking for something more, whether it's new skills, a greater sense of purpose, or just a fresh start. That's why today's episode is about helping you to invest in your personal and professional growth. We're going to talk about actionable strategies you can use to stand out, get ahead, and find real meaning in your work. Whether you're thinking about moving up in your current job, switching careers, or starting your own thing, there's something here for you. Before we jump into it, this episode is brought to you by my financial advisory firm, Runnymede Capital Management. I'm inviting you to do a 3-minute plan that calculates your max retirement income. If you're financial planning curious, doing a 3-minute plan is a great way to start. There's a Schwab survey that says about 2/3 of Americans have not plotted their goals and documented a financial plan. So if you're uncertain about how much you need to retire or haven't put your needs, wants, and desires down to paper, go to inspiredmoney.fm/getplan. Check it out, and I'm happy to point you in the right direction. So we've got an incredible panel of experts lined up today. They're here to give you the tools you need to thrive. Let's welcome them in. And wherever you're watching from, please leave a comment, share where you're watching from. And if you have questions during today's episode, please drop your questions in comments. Let me start with Bobby Umar. He's a motivational speaker, 5-time TEDx speaker, business coach, and social media advocate with over 650,000 followers. He's recognized by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers and known for helping leaders to find authentic purpose and amplify their personal brand. He's author of the book, How to Network Anytime, Anywhere with Anyone. Bobby, welcome.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
I'm so glad that you could make it. We also have William Arruda. He is a leading authority on personal branding, best-selling author and founder of Reach Personal Branding and Career Blast TV. His keynotes and programs have inspired millions of professionals to embrace their unique value and thrive in their careers. He's written several books, including Digital You, Real Personal Branding in the Virtual Digital Age. Did I get that right? The digital, it's close. And also Career Distinction, stand out by building your brand. William, welcome.
Thanks, Andy. Great to be here.
We have Stella Collins. She's co-founder and chief learning officer at Stellar Labs, a renowned expert in neuroscience-based learning with over 25 years of experience. And she's the best-selling author of Neuroscience for Learning and Development. She's dedicated to transforming how businesses upskill their teams through science-backed, impactful learning solutions. Welcome, Stella.
Lovely to be with you all this afternoon.
Stella wants a world where every minute spent learning is worth it. So we look forward to learning from your learnings. And rounding out the panel today, we have Claire Wasserman back on the show. If everybody remembers, she's founder of Ladies Get Paid. She's an educator, author, and advocate for women's professional and financial advancement. She's helped thousands of women negotiate raises and start businesses, and is recognized as one of Entrepreneur Magazine's 100 most powerful women. Robin Roberts once called her the career coach, helping ladies get paid. And Claire's book is Ladies Get Paid, The Ultimate Guide to Breaking Barriers, Owning Your Worth, in taking command of your career. Welcome back, Claire.
Thanks for having me. The joke is that I can't sell the books because they're all in the back of my, camera.
You have to slowly release them.
Get them out of my house.
Well, they look great behind you. Well, I'm so excited to have all of you here and learning about personal branding, personal development, how we can invest in ourselves. Let's jump right in with segment 1. Continuous learning is a crucial element in career growth, allowing professionals to stay competitive and adapt to industry changes. Updating your skills and knowledge are essential for maintaining relevance and achieving career advancement. To stay updated with industry trends, it's important to engage in self-directed learning by reading industry publications, watching educational videos, and participating in online forums. Online platforms like Coursera, Udemy, and LinkedIn Learning offer flexible courses that can be completed alongside your job, helping you acquire new skills at your own pace. Networking and mentorship also play a key role, providing insights and guidance from experienced professionals. Hands-on projects, whether in your job or as side ventures, reinforce learning and demonstrate your commitment to growth. By investing in continuous learning, you can enhance your job performance, open doors to career advancement, and experience personal growth. This proactive approach ensures you remain competitive and fulfilled in your professional journey. Bobby, I want to start with you. What does investing in yourself mean to you?
I've struggled all my life with a lost career, trying to do different things. I tried brand marketing, I tried engineering, I tried performing arts, teaching. And part of it is because I was trying to follow a path of success defined by other people. And the moment I decided to really understand who I was and where I came from, that was investing in myself, understanding my values, understanding, what worked, what didn't work. And that's really where things kind of changed, because then I found a path that made me understand my personal brand. And I followed a path that I've been doing now for the last 20 years, which is motivational speaking and coaching and things like that. So for me, learning to invest in yourself is really critical, because what I've learned, whether it's investing in your own personal development or your personal brand, or even just, becoming better at the things you're doing, my belief is that a better you is a better everything else. It affects your business, it affects your brand, it affects your relationships, it affects your family. So that's kind of, for me, why I invest in myself.
Interesting. I mean, as a math and theater guy, investing in yourself was central to you really evolving in your career.
Yeah, I think for the most part, what happened was we started to see the things that, for example, math was a path because I was good at it, but not necessarily what I want to do for a living. The theater thing became part of the brand because I like to perform, present on stage, and that made sense for me to become, a motivational speaker and doing TEDx talks. So, I saw but the math thing is part of my problem solving analytical ability. So we take all the different pieces of ourselves and find what works best for us in terms of not only what we're good at, but also what we love to do.
I love that. Claire, your work at Ladies Get Paid emphasizes the need for women to continue learning and advocating for themselves. What strategies do you recommend for women balancing continuous learning with their career demands?
I think the first step is raising the standards that you have for yourself and what you are worthy of, that you don't have to be dissatisfied with your life. Of course, you're not always going to be happy. You're not always going to be in a situation that's fantastic, but that you have a say in how you respond to it. I think the balance here is knowing that inside you are priceless, but there is a game to be played at work. We are in a system of capitalism. And so when you advocate for yourself, there is a dollar amount to it. And it's usually based off of how much you're contributing to the financial ecosystem of wherever you are. And so I find it's really this balance of kind of, yes, personal therapy, but also strategy, playing office politics. These things can go hand in hand. You don't need to sacrifice who you are to be great at work. But again, there is a difference between who you are, I think, at home, and the conversations you have with yourself in your diary, and how you show up at work. There's a nuance to it. And it can be very exhausting. So that's why I'm so glad we're talking about this, and that hopefully people watching and listening seek support, whether it's with a coach or a community, to go back and forth between how you feel about yourself and how you project yourself at work. there's a lot of shape shifting that can come with that. So I love this topic. Thank you for having me again, by the way, Andy.
I love the idea that it is indeed a game that we're playing, and certainly having a coach or a community to help you kind of navigate your strategy and playing the game. Definitely something that's needed. Stella, maybe we can get some neuroscience from you. How do we flex our curiosity muscle and thrive in a skills economy?
So I think the key thing of thriving in a skills economy is actually to go beyond those LinkedIn learning courses, Udemy courses and things, which are great. I'm a LinkedIn learning author myself. There's some really good ones out there, but it's really starting to get curious enough to actually want to do something with that learning, to actually begin to practice. And Claire talked about, support, having a coach or support. So having somebody who can support you stimulates oxytocin, makes you feel better, actually makes you more creative, is really, really important. And, if you think about how you learn to do anything, ride a bike, play an instrument, act in the theatre, you can't do any of that by watching videos or doing courses. You have to do it. So you really have to put the practice in to build those neuronal networks and actually create that neuroplastic change that is what you're looking for when you're learning.
Can you define neuroplasticity for us?
Wow. Yeah. It's basically, our brains are made of multiple neurons, and they connect together. Neuroplasticity is the kind of finding that actually they can reconnect, they can create new pathways, new networks. And really, when you're learning, that's what you're doing. You're teaching your brain to build different paths, different networks, you're connecting things up differently, which enables you to actually behave differently, to think differently, and even to be different. So it's the fact that we used to think our brains were like hardwired and they were set, but they're not. They're much more plastic than we thought. Some things, some things are located, some behaviors are located in particular places, some functions are located in particular places, but even that can shift if you work at it enough.
Thank you. William, personal branding, I imagine, is always evolving. How do you incorporate continuous learning to stay relevant in the branding industry?
Yeah, well, I will say for people who are building their brands, they think that they've gone through the first step in the process, which is uncovering your brand, and they can tick the box and move on. And I think one of the things that we all know is that change is the only constant. And therefore, what you learned about yourself 2 years ago is not necessarily relevant today. And even your life purpose and your goals are going to change. So I think as you're thinking about how do I become a lifelong learner and what should I learn, you really need to get clear about your brand again. You need to go back and say, what is really important to me? And then once I know that, what are the programs that I can participate in that can help me get the skills that I need to be successful there? I think right now, for example, everyone in the world is doing an AI course, and I don't know that they need to do that. I mean, we all need to learn about AI. Everyone's job is going to be affected by it, and there may be something that they could learn that would be more valuable to them, more differentiating from a personal branding perspective. And so being really thoughtful about what you're learning and think to just kind of further say what Stella was saying is there are different ways to learn, and everyone has their different techniques. And I would say that online learning without interaction with others and without the opportunity to apply what you learn is mostly wasted. And there's some data that back that up.
Loads of data to back that up, William. Just a quick interruption there, because you need to do the doing.
Yeah, it's all about doing. Anyone else want to chime in on this investing on yourself topic?
Just that it's going to be hard, right? It's going to be painful. It means there's a learning curve. If you're investing in yourself, that means there's a desire for more, which also is a reminder that you don't yet have it. So understanding and accepting and embracing that there's going to be a roller coaster, maybe of emotions as you go through the learning and the doing. You won't be very good at it for a while. And that's kind of the point. So I really encourage anybody who is beginning the investing and the doing, that it's a process.
I think a lot of people don't want to do the work, right? Because they want to quickly get to what they're doing. So from a personal branding standpoint, people are focusing on design the right brand and getting the assets and marketing and website, everything together, but they don't want to do the deep dive into discovering their personal brand. And what happens is if they just design without discovering, then they deploy the brand and it's not as good as they thought it could be, or they don't have the result they want in 6, 12, or 18 months. And so again, I tell people, do the deep dive, but everyone I know wants to skip the steps. But if you invest, it's going to have much, much better outcomes.
And I think it's really important to think about that in terms of learning too, what Claire said, it's hard work. You need to work at it. You need to work at it for a long time. You need that support to work at it. And don't just imagine that by, doing a short course, you will have those new skills. You're going to have to practice, fail, get it wrong, get some really good support, get some really good feedback so that you actually do the hard work. That neuroplasticity is hard work. Our brains use an enormous amount of energy, and rewiring them uses even more. So really think about the work you need to put in.
And the last thing I would add is that you actually can make it fun. When it comes, I have an article that's going to come up out in my Forbes column this week, and it's about the 3 things you need to master for learning. And one really has to do with picking things that are fun. When you're having fun, you learn more, and you're more apt to stick with whatever program you're pursuing if you're having fun, rather than if it's just painful and awful and evil. There's this mindset that we all have to have shifted a little bit, and that is that work is work and fun is fun. If work is fun, we're more productive, we're more engaged, we're actually more attractive to those around us, and there's a ripple effect to that. So I think that if you pick the programs that feel fun for you, you're going to have the maximum learning, and you're going to be able to apply that.
Yeah, and the environment in which you do it and who's teaching it, right? So let's say you start to take a course, or you have a certain coach and, it's not feeling great, and instinctually, that doesn't mean the problem is with you. The problem could just be, let's, switch coaches. Let's, for me, writing my book in front of my computer, oh my gosh, I couldn't write anything. Turns out I have to lie down and write on my phone. I have to trick my body into thinking we're relaxing, which goes off of the point of like fun. So I think this whole thing is about experimentation, trying again. And to all my women out there who tell me I hate being bad at things, right? Because we're perfectionists. Let's embrace the fact that we're going to be bad at this. And that's the point. It means we're getting better.
I like it. So I got to fool myself, and I have to try to make it as fun as possible to get through the difficult and hard work. Let's go to segment 2.
But learning itself can be enjoyable. The joy of actually learning something, the kind of satisfaction you get from having learned something, or at least making progress. Track your progress, not just the failures. Track the progress, because that in itself is satisfying.
That is reinforcing. Thank you, Stella. We're going to go to segment 2 and talk about building resilience and self-confidence.
Building self-confidence and resilience are essential for professional success. Self-confidence empowers you to take risks and pursue your goals assertively, while resilience helps you navigate setbacks and challenges effectively. To boost self-confidence, practice positive self-talk by replacing negative thoughts with affirmations like "I am capable." Setting and achieving small goals can also build a sense of accomplishment, gradually increasing your confidence. Adopting confident body language, such as maintaining eye contact and standing tall, can influence how you feel about yourself and how others perceive you. Resilience is developed by viewing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than setbacks. Building a support network of encouraging individuals and honing problem-solving skills can further enhance your ability to bounce back from difficulties. A growth mindset underpins both confidence and resilience. Embracing continuous learning, fostering optimism, and reflecting on past successes are key strategies for cultivating this mindset, enabling you to thrive in both personal and professional life.
William, confidence is a cornerstone of personal branding. How do you coach people to project confidence in their personal brand, even when they might not feel it internally?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with alignment of being who you are and being willing to not fit in. And I think that confidence comes from being our best selves. When we're playing a role, so you see it in people all the time at work, right? It's like they're on stage in Broadway. They're playing a role, and while they're there, they're going to just essentially exude these behaviors that aren't necessarily comfortable or consistent for who they are. I think one of the byproducts of personal branding, and I've seen it with people for years and years and years, is you get comfortable in your own shoes, and people see that, and people can experience it, and that gives you confidence, because when they see you being yourself, it gives them permission to be themselves. So I think that confidence, if you're truly doing personal branding right, confidence happens because you're aligning who you are with what you do and how you do it.
Great point. Stella, I want to ask you, how does our brain process failure, and what are some ways to rewire our thinking to build resilience?
So our brain processes failure. It's just more information for our brain. It's not that it processes failure. It's how we label things. That, am I successful? Have I failed? So it's not really that your brain processes failure, unless you've done something stupid like I've just done, like break my foot. But it's kind of how your brain actually handles that. In the little video, it talked about, what's your self-talk. So yes, I've been stupid to break my foot, but I've been very lucky that, it was a very small break and it's not that bad. And I'm going to, I've got to this great age without having broken a bone yet. So, and that's all about building the resilience as well. So it's not how your brain processes it, but what do you say to yourself in terms of what's happened to me? How am I going to handle this? How does this fit into the bigger picture? Sometimes we can get very focused on ourselves and kind of do the kind of, oh, woe is me and I've failed. But actually failure is just a step on the path to success. If you fail something, you've learned something. You've already learned that that's not the way to do it under these circumstances. It might be the way to do it under different circumstances, but you've learned that's not the way to do it in these circumstances. So always see failure as another route towards learning.
I think Claire has a very personal story and experience related to that. Claire, you built Ladies Get Paid into an incredible movement for women advocating for equal pay and career advancement, but it hasn't been without its challenges.
You said story. I mean, story is very quickly. Yeah, I was sued by a group of men's rights activists accusing me of gender discrimination. And it's obviously a much longer story. But if you'd like to learn more and see how we leverage the setback for growth, we created a website called ladiesgetsued.com. And we just looked at it as a marketing campaign, right? That we then ultimately profited off of. We crowdfunded money. We got in so much press, and I got my book deal out of it. However, that's not to say it wasn't without sacrifice, right? Emotional sacrifice, distraction from building my business. We were getting our name out there, but I wasn't building the core of our business. So I, have lots to say on setbacks in regards to that. I also have had, massive setbacks from the pandemic. We were an in-person business with 1,000 people coming to our conference. But guess what's so great about the pandemic decimating our in-person brand deal reliant business? We had to build something that was actually more sustainable and scalable. So in the long run, better. Short-term suffering, long-term better. And I just want to underscore Stella's point of the story that we tell ourselves being everything. My son has had a lot of health problems. He has congenital heart defects. He's in the hospital again after a second open heart surgery. And every time we feel devastated, and we are devastated, we also remind ourselves of all the luck we've had. We joke, we're the luckiest unlucky people. And the minute we shift that focus to all of the things that have gone right with him versus gone wrong, we feel immensely grateful for the situation we're in. So again, doesn't negate the suffering. It's the adding, right? That these experiences, there's a multitude to them. But the best you can do is just try to learn and not skip over the hard stuff, which I think we've underscored well today.
That's powerful. Bobby, you often speak about vulnerability in leadership. What role does vulnerability play in building true self-confidence?
A lot of things. Number one, if you're willing to be, sorry, I hear noise. When you're willing to be vulnerable, you're basically telling people that, hey, I'm going through this, I've been through this, and you're not alone. And whatever you're feeling, we're all in this together. So I think that vulnerable piece actually tells people that they're not alone. It also allows you to empower yourself and be validated for what you're trying to do. So the example I give people is, one of my personal struggles has been binge eating. The moment I was diagnosed with binge eating disorder, I actually found it helpful. I was like, you know what? Okay, now I don't feel like there's something wrong with me. I feel like this is something that I can own and I can leverage and I can talk about. And it helped me to be more open to that. And I think with leaders, being able to tell those vulnerable stories and be more human is a greater way to connect with them and to inspire them. And that's also going back to, what other people have said about, personal brand and being authentic. I'm not a big fan of fake it till you make it. I'm a big fan of face it till you ace it. Whatever it is you're going through, whatever you're trying to do, take the chance to face those things and work on those things. And I do love vulnerability. It's something that I am very passionate about because it allows us to own what we're going through and allows us to connect to people who are inspired by that same message. I get messages from people from 5 years later saying, "Oh my God, you shared this thing from 5 years ago. I've been watching since then. Thank you so much for sharing that." Even if that helps one person, I think that's a way to change lives.
Bobby,
sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to add something that it's kind of connected to what we've been talking about. I have this technique that I use with all my clients, and I do it myself personally. And I think it's a really powerful way to stay positive and to remind ourselves of all the great things in our lives. At the end of every day, if you want some punctuation, and it's great to do with a partner or a colleague or a friend, share these three things: something I accomplished, something I learned, and something I'm grateful for. And this will help you end your day with some positive things that happen, then rather than focus on failure. And by the way, a friend of mine added a fourth one, which is something you did that was kind. So if you want to make the trifecta into a four version of that is, I don't know the right word, you can do that. But I do think it helps us both put an end to the day and say, okay, this day is not going to run into the next one and these great things happen. And then we start the next day with some positivity and resilience.
I like that one. Bobby, you have any strategies? Because you coach people on TED Talks. It's often said that public speaking is like feared more than death. So how do you coach people to get over that and build their self-confidence?
Well, I think that I could probably go back to the binge eating thing, which is, when it happens and I have the episodes, how do I navigate it? And I think, one is having a system in place to avoid the burnout, avoid the, getting stuck in that rabbit hole. So I have a certain 3-point system I use to help overcome the binge eating. At the same time, I also have a support network. So being part of a community, I run my own community called the Thought Leadership Branding Club, but I also am part of other communities where I seek help, I share stuff. And also I have very open relationships with my friends and my family and my wife, and I'll talk about these things. By talking about these things, I'll even post on social media. I'll share vulnerable stories on social media, and people are like, wow, you're talking about diabetes, body image, weight loss, and all the challenges of entrepreneurship fails, because it does help me process what I'm going through. And so for me, having the support system, being able to talk about it, and also owning, where you're at and what you're going through, I think are the best ways to work on those things. And the more you do that, you build more resilience, you build more confidence, because the more you build those practices, the more, and including the failures, the more your confidence starts to build. And I think that to me it's a big part of where confidence can help you as well as help other people.
Stella, I want to ask you about from a neuroscience perspective, because I love William's tip about going through the 3 or 4 steps at the end of the day, but there's power in doing something at the end of the day before you go to bed. Like I've heard stories of musicians who tell me they woke up in the morning, they dreamt that they wrote a song and they could immediately, like that song was written in their dream. I've never experienced that. Maybe you can give us some insight.
I definitely don't know about writing songs in your dreams, but sleep is incredibly important for us, because when we sleep, we kind of refresh our entire brain. So everything that went the day before, even if it was difficult, if just before you go to sleep, you either do what William suggested, or you just think about, what do I want to get out of tomorrow? What would be a good thing to come from tomorrow? You're then putting that thought into your brain. And what your brain does overnight, it kind of revisits everything that's gone in the day. And you can actually practice things. So particularly when you're dreaming, you're actually practicing. So your dreams seem mad and crazy, but you're often practicing real skills, like, the real skill of being resilient. You could be practicing that while you're asleep. And whilst you're sleeping, you're creating new memories, and you're kind of allowing your brain to process those memories. And if at the end of the day you can look back at that day and kind of try and put it in perspective, you reduce some of the stress that might have happened at that awful moment in the day when you did something terrible or something went horribly wrong. That's very stressful. If you reflect on it later, with slightly less stress, then as you pack that memory into your brain at night, it can pack it away with a bit of less stress, so that then when you wake up in the morning and you perhaps recall that memory again, the stress has gone down. And then that allows you to think, well, okay, that wasn't perhaps as bad as it seemed at the time. Next time I do that, I can remember what it was like. I can remember what I did right. I can remember what I did wrong. And you've reduced that stress level. So, thinking about presentations or something, if you can just take small steps each time, and each time work on I'm going to feel better today than I did last time. So it's the sleep that's so important.
I've heard that so many times. I need to get more sleep. I'm going to work on it more. Let's go to segment 3.
Investing in professional certifications and advanced training can enhance your career potential, leading to higher earning power and greater job security. Certifications not only boost confidence in job performance, but also make you more competitive in the job market, which can open doors to promotions and higher paying positions. The financial benefits of certifications are clear. Those with certifications like Project Management Professional often earn more than their uncertified peers. While the cost of obtaining these credentials can be high, the long-term return on investment typically outweighs the initial expense, especially with the potential for employer financial support. Identifying relevant certifications within your industry is key. For example, IT professionals might pursue CompTIA A+ or AWS Certified Solutions Architect, while those in finance could benefit from a Certified Investment Management Analyst designation. By strategically choosing certifications that align with your career goals, you can position yourself for long-term success and professional growth.
Claire, for women aiming to close the pay gap, are there certifications or advanced training that you recommend to help them boost their market value?
I mean, it's so specific to what you do for a living and where you want to go. I think the best thing you can do is to just gather as much information as possible from the people who have roles that you might be interested in one day becoming. So whether that's your boss or going laterally within your company, or, just researching what did it take for them to get there. But this is the question to really ask. In their job, what is most difficult about it? What has been their biggest learning curves? Compare that to what you do now, and that's the gap. Sometimes it's skills, sometimes it's strengths, right? As we say, soft skills. It's not always a certification. It might be more about, more experience in a certain area, more exposure to a certain network. So really, really gather information before you take any kind of action, especially if you have to pay for it.
Great advice. Was someone going to chime in? I wasn't sure. Okay. Bobby, how do you guide professionals in identifying certifications that align with their long-term career goals?
Well, I think it's important to know, from a deep dive perspective, what our strengths are and what are our challenge areas. So every time I talk with somebody or work with clients, we find out, here are the strengths of their brand, here are the strengths of their current situation, here are the assets they have. Some people are naturally good speakers, and some people are naturally good analyzers, some people are naturally good at other things. And so we look at those strengths, but then we look at what are areas that we can focus on that might be helpful to you. And I'll even share my own personal example, which is, having been an entrepreneur for 20 years, a gap that I identified for myself from a training perspective was, and this is through a coach who I'd known for a couple of years, is one thing I always wasn't comfortable with was sales. Doing sales calls and doing the follow-ups and, booking clients. And so I took his advanced training, and it definitely helped me tremendously to, get better at that. And all of us have those things. We have our assets and our skills that we're really good at. And we have certain things we can outsource. And there's other things we want to work on. And so whatever we identify we want to work on, you look for people out there that can help you with that in the best way. And the other thing to keep in mind too is what is the best way that's going to what learning do they want? Because people have different needs in terms of, some people like to, watch videos. Some people like to have the hands-on training. So it's also important to kind of know your personality and how you operate as a learner.
William,
Can I just
yeah,
bust a
please
myth
go ahead.
there that's really important? It's not so much how you learn that's important, it's what you're learning. You hear this myth quite often that people are visual learners or auditory learners or they're hands-on learners. You cannot learn to ride a bike by watching a video. You can't learn to be a successful entrepreneur by watching a video. You have to do the doing. So often we kind of get a little bit distracted by this myth that, we are a particular type of learner. Think about what you're trying to learn. If you're trying to learn music, you need to do that through auditory means, and you need to, play or listen to music. I just wanted to bust that myth that we're not a specific type of learner. We find the best strategies for what it is we're learning. And humans are good at that naturally.
Yeah, how do you bridge that gap? I think sometimes it's easier said than done.
Really think about, what am I trying to learn? What would be the best way to learn this thing? So if it's riding a bike, it's actually riding a bike. If it's learning to code, it's actually coding. Yes, you need all the support and maybe you need some information as well. But what is it you're trying to learn? If you're trying to paint, or you're trying to, learn how to do art, yes, you want to look at art, but you also need to actually physically, get the paintbrush out or get the tools out that you need to do. So it's about seeing learning as I think Claire talked about it earlier, as a process. And part of that process is taking in information. So multi-sensory information really helps your brain to remember it. But don't think I'm a visual learner and therefore I'll just watch videos, or don't think I'm a kinesthetic learner and I'll just do the doing. You still need to, you need to practice what's relevant. You need to use the strategy that's right for the thing you're learning.
And actually, can I just interject for one quick second? The step that I see a lot of people miss before is you actually want to carve out time to do the learning, and do the doing. Because I oftentimes coach women who they have all these plans and they're going to take this class and then they just don't follow through. And we actually spend a lot of our sessions talking about time energy management first, carving out that space for the process before you even, take the class or do the doing.
And the time to reflect on it. What did I actually learn? What's important for me? And how am I going to take that to the next level?
Yeah, and I want to share a quick story about Joe Walsh from the Eagles, because I heard him tell a story about growing up. He would always go out and play in front of people, even when he only could play like 1, 2, 3 songs. That was the habit that he started. And his comment was, oh, there are all these young kids who just play in their bedroom or they play in their garage, but they never play in front of people. So he said the result is they're a legend in their own mind, but they cannot get in front of people and play. So he found that when he went out there, played in front of people, he's like, you're lousy. You're always lousy. But slowly over time, you're raising your level of lousy to the point where you can actually perform in front of people and then start selling tickets, and then you're playing in a stadium. He's like, you're still lousy, but you're getting paid to be lousy.
and you're learning there in the context of where you actually want to be at the end. So you're not learning if you only want to be a digital star, then play in your bedroom. But if you want to be out there, in a huge arena, he's absolutely right. Go out there and get the context right, because that's hugely important for learning.
William, how do you view the role of certifications in personal branding? Is that a good way for somebody to stand out? And then how can they add that to their LinkedIn profile?
Yeah. So, you know what? I'm going to be a contrarian when it comes to certifications. And sometimes, so I think what we need to think about is, what do we want to do and what role do we want to have? And if all of the advertisements for that role says that you need to be a certified financial professional or a PMP or an associate coach, then we need to do that. I think there's a difference, though, between doing that for the credential that opens the door, which is a lot of what, if we didn't have our bachelor's degrees, we wouldn't have gone into the companies that we're in, regardless of whether we had the skills or not to do it. Sometimes there are doorkeepers, and that's that. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. I'm the worst engineer on the planet. I hated electrical engineering. I took it because I thought you need to go to school for something that's hard, right? But it got me into a job, right? And then immediately I stopped doing electrical engineering, which was probably good for me and for the company, because I wasn't a good engineer. So I think that we need to understand the distinction between pursuing a certification because we think that what we're going to learn in that certification is going to be helpful to us around skills, or we just have to have that certification because a door is going to be closed to us if we don't have it. And so a certification is more of a credential. Skills are actually really different. There's a great book. It's called I think it's called The Expertise Economy by Kelly Palmer. She used to be the CLO of Degreed, and it is about the fact that we're moving to a skills-based economy. And there are so many, I think there are 12 major corporations who just took a lot of their jobs and eliminated the need for a bachelor's degree and instead listed the skills that you need to be able to prove that you have. So I think we're going to move from these kind of certifications and degrees to more verified skills that I absolutely have the skill to be able to do X.
I agree with William. I mean, certifications aren't always necessary. I mean, everything's an asset, right? So if it helps you, great. But if you get a certification, how can you leverage it? There are certain ones we sometimes need that are costs of entries to things, but you don't always need them. The ability to demonstrate your skills, to share ideas, to build relationships, to have a build thought leadership, which is what I like to talk about, because you can build thought leadership without certification. You can build thought leadership in ways where people see what you're doing is really powerful, and I want to work with you even though you don't have that certification. However, it can be an asset that can be leveraged, but I don't think necessarily you always have to get it.
I cannot agree more with both of you. I think it's so important that we certification is useful if it helps you open the door. But what you're really trying to do, and we talk about, we're moving from a knowledge economy to an actual skills economy. And what you want is your skills validated, not certified, but validated. Can somebody see you do this thing? Have they observed you actually putting this thing into practice in the relevant context in the workplace? And one of the pieces of our technology is that actually enables that conversation between, employee and manager supervisor. I'm doing this task. Can you validate it for me, please? And we actually promote that. So you're actively having those conversations that we know are important for people at work, that other people can see them do what they need to be able to do, not that they've got a piece of paper that says that they've been in and they've learned something about it. It's the doing.
Love it. Love the contrarian perspectives. We're going to move to segment 4.
Entrepreneurship requires a blend of personal qualities and professional strategies to succeed. Key traits like curiosity, passion, resilience, and adaptability are crucial. Curiosity drives innovation, while passion sustains motivation through challenges. Resilience allows entrepreneurs to bounce back from setbacks, and adaptability ensures they can pivot when needed. Self-motivation and discipline are also essential, as entrepreneurs often work without external structures. Setting goals, staying focused, and maintaining discipline are vital for achieving business objectives. Professional development is equally important. Networking opens doors to opportunities and collaborations. Continuous learning helps entrepreneurs acquire necessary skills in finance, marketing, and communication. Regularly seeking feedback allows for refining strategies and improving market fit. Balancing business demands with personal growth is critical. Setting boundaries, prioritizing self-care, and managing time effectively can prevent burnout. By investing in these areas, aspiring entrepreneurs can build resilient, thriving businesses.
Bobby, you shared a little bit about your personal experience. Can you share again? I mean, as an entrepreneur, how important is personal growth to your path?
Well, I mean, I think that as I started as an entrepreneur, I had lots of struggles in the very beginning because I'm a very social person. So I was very lonely and I found it really hard. In the beginning, pricing myself was hard because of my mindset in terms of who am I and do I value myself? Although personal branding helped me validate some of that stuff. And then, of course, even the personal challenges with my physical fitness and health and diabetes became, barriers. And so it was hard, but I'd say that, putting systems in place, in particular, having a community to help me navigate these things, getting advice, having mentors, having an advisory board, all these things, getting a coach, these are all things that helped me along the way to create systems and create support systems that help me succeed as an entrepreneur. I think that's something that most entrepreneurs struggle with, right? And I think it's personal and professional. People they interrelate so much, right? So my challenges with currently my group, my brooding teenagers and my aging parents are emotional, mental things that are definitely affecting me right now as I'm trying to build my business or help people in a TEDx talk or build my TLB club. And we have to navigate and appreciate all these things. So what are the systems we have in place, both personal and professional? They definitely overlap.
Any personal growth practices that you've implemented that have really contributed to success?
I think for me personally, I set goals for myself that, you can't do, 10,000 things each year. So every year I'm like, okay, what is the 3 things I want to do with my business? And what is the 1 or 2 things I want to do from a personal growth perspective? So I typically look at those things every year, and then every 6 months and every quarter, kind of what am I trying to do? Where am I trying to go? What do I need help with? And I think that really helps me to think about that. I also do that with my kids, where they're at. I also do that with my wife. And I find that to be really helpful to keep revisiting and talking about and planning, because we have to evolve and adapt as we move along.
William, how can entrepreneurs use personal growth strategy when there's so many demands upon them already just to try to run their business?
Yeah, well, here's one of the things I think everyone, regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working inside the corporate environment, that you need to do that makes this easier, and that's networking. And it came up in your little video as the introduction to this segment. If you are able to connect with people, you end up with shortcuts for a million things. They can give you a resource or a reference or an insight or just a shoulder to cry on in a really bad day when things are not going so well. And I think one of the ways to learn and grow is to have all of these connections, and not necessarily all connections in the same field that you're in. Sometimes, once I got business from my dentist, because I was telling him in the little bit of time that his fingers weren't in my mouth, I was able to tell him what I do. And he literally found me the person who was in the chair before me happened to be the head of HR at an organization, and he connected us. So I think we know that 70% of jobs are not filled through any kind of job posting. Most jobs are never even listed. So if you're looking in the corporate world, and the same thing for entrepreneurship, the answers that I find to my problems, which seem to come up every single day, the first thing I think of is, who do I know who can help me with this? Or I'm going to dinner tonight. I'm just going to throw this out into the group and see what comes up. I think that the human connection, the social interaction, and the access to all of these different perspectives and ideas is the way that it takes a lot of pressure off and gives time back.
I'm impressed, William. Always be selling, no matter where you are. Claire, I think that you have unique insights into how a community can support, especially with female entrepreneurs. So what do you see in your Ladies Get Paid community as far as supporting female entrepreneurs to develop both professionally and personally? Oh, you're muted.
Can't believe I only did that once today. I started Ladies Get Paid by hosting town halls for women to come together to share stories related to what they were going through at work. And that recognition that they were not the only ones experiencing something was oftentimes like the very thing they needed to make a change. So it actually wasn't even any kind of education afterwards, because we would host workshops. It was simply, I am not the only one. I have a podcast now where I film myself coaching. I mean, my clients are off camera, and change their name. But being able to witness the experience of another is so, so profound. And also, and this underscores the point that's been made before, is again, the process of all of this. It's not the snapping your fingers and we figured it out, or something that's linear, right? The roller coaster of building ourselves and building our business. And so the sharing of stories, I think, is the best way that most of us can feel better and make change.
That's powerful. Stella, can you give us some insights into how entrepreneurs can use neuroscience principles to fuel their personal growth?
So one of the things I was just thinking about was that, and it really resonates with what everybody else has been saying, is that, we talked about, the need to be curious. If you're curious, it becomes so much easier to learn because you're openly asking questions. So I think the first thing is, really ask questions. Why is this like this? How does this work? Ask other people, and that idea of networking where you meet diverse different people and seeing opportunities everywhere you are, whether it's the dentist or the shops, or I've got business before now because I used to be in an art group, and I've got business because I used to be in a drama group. So really building on those kind of different connections, and do something slightly different every day just to keep your curiosity level kind of work that curiosity muscle effectively. And one of the really interesting things about curiosity is curiosity and fear are actually really finely balanced in your brain. They both, when you feel curious, you get a release of dopamine in the nucleus accumbens, at the front of the nucleus accumbens, a little piece buried right in the middle of your brain. But when you feel fearful, you still get a release of dopamine, but it's the back of the nucleus accumbens. So this balance of curiosity and fear is so fine that, if you're feeling fearful about something, I'm not sure I want to do this, maybe get curious about, why don't I want to do it? What's holding me back? And that curiosity will kind of tip your interest into that, okay, well, I probably could do that. So ask questions and really recognize that curiosity and fear are just so closely linked to each other. Keep trying to tip yourself into the curiosity part of that balance.
I love curiosity as an antidote. We are going to bring it home with our last segment, segment 5.
Building a strong professional network and personal brand are essential for career advancement. Networking provides access to opportunities and helps you establish valuable connections. Attending industry events and conferences are a great way to meet key figures in your field. Following up with personalized messages after these events can help maintain these connections. Engaging in online communities also allows you to connect with professionals globally, share insights, and establish yourself as a knowledgeable resource. Personal branding is equally important. Start by defining your value proposition. What sets you apart in your industry? Create a consistent online presence and optimizing your social media profiles. Sharing high-quality content can establish you as a thought leader. Leverage platforms like LinkedIn to showcase your achievements, skills, and expertise, and engage with your network regularly. By combining effective networking with a strong personal brand, you can enhance your career opportunities and professional reputation.
Bobby, this came up a little bit in the last segment, but I've heard you say that 80% of job opportunities come from networking, not from emails, but only 20% are networking well. How has networking helped you personally to build your brand? Can you talk about what's worked and what hasn't worked?
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, I've always been a relationship builder. And yes, I believe that those who are really good in networking, building those relationships, are more likely to get the opportunities. And I think William already talked a bit about that. For me, I'll tell you a quick story, which was when I was in the corporate world, I was doing a musical. I played the Mikado in the Mikado years ago. And backstage, I was talking to the technical director, and I started chatting up with her and networking with her and building a relationship with her over several shows. And next thing you know, she told me there was a job opportunity and she thought I might be good for it because of my personality and my skill set. And next thing you know, I applied, and within a month I got the job. So for me, that helped even when I was in the corporate space, but it also helped me as an entrepreneur, getting out there and getting clear on my brand, networking with people, listening to people's stories, investing in who they are, having the follow up. Because again, not following up makes networking useless, right? What's the point of getting their connection or getting their card if you don't actually follow up? So for me, networking and relationship building and cultivating that is the foundation of all success when it comes to business and career, if you want to grow quickly or you want to grow largely.
Claire, I think you often have good networking advice. What are your thoughts?
I mean, listen, my wife came to, well, she wasn't my wife then. She came to Ladies Get Paid to, find a new job. And then she married me and also became my co-founder. So networking really can work. It's all in the follow-up. Yes, I think it's not being strategic with networking as somehow mutually exclusive with being authentic. And this circles back to, I think, how I began, the conversation with everyone today is these things go hand in hand. So remembering to reach out, which by the way, put it in your calendar, reach out to folks in your life consistently, send them articles that you come across that remind you of them, hey, like Bobby, I'm going to recommend you as a speaker, I'm going to Inbound and all, it's like, I'm just going to always be paying it forward because that feels good, but it's also strategic, right? And if something doesn't feel right, don't do it. But again, thinking it's only friendships or only transactional business networking, like it's all sort of fluid together. But again, it takes time and effort, and I know we're all busy, so make it as easy as possible for yourself by, again, putting things in your calendar or just brainstorming other ways that you can integrate it into your everyday.
Love it. Yeah. How did you meet your spouse? The old-fashioned way. Work.
Yeah.
Stella, is there science behind successful networking? And maybe a tip for those who say, I'm an introvert.
I think for me, the biggest thing I learned about networking was to go to networking with a host mentality. So even if you're an introvert and you find it, difficult to perhaps, talk for a long time about yourself, don't go with that mentality. Think about who can I introduce to somebody else? If I listen to somebody and they tell me that they do a particular, branding or something, and I've listened to somebody else and they're looking for somebody to help them, then I can do the introduction. So I don't have to be, the one who does all the talking. I can be the one who does the listening and then helps introduce people. And I think going with that host mindset as opposed to sharing mindset, I think that could be really helpful for people who feel less confident about it.
I love what Stella said. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I love what Stella said because, I married an introvert and I'm raising an introvert. And even though I'm a flaming extrovert, 100% on the Myers-Briggs scale, I spend more time listening at networking events than I do talking. You'd be surprised, but that's kind of how I do it because then I want to help them connect with other people. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just one other thing is I find this is a helpful shift from, it's not self-promotion, but service promotion. So you're talking about the things that you do that light you up, the problems you solve and how it can help another person. And I find for a lot of the women that I coach, just that simple shift from self to service, oh my gosh, it just opens up everything.
Love that. Love that tip. William, your thoughts?
I agree with all of that. And I think your goal in personal branding is to turn people you don't know into fans, and then those fans into promoters, those promoters who are going to tell the whole rest of the world about how amazing you are. And the way you do that is by delivering value. And if every time you meet people, your goal is to find a way to deliver something of value to them. And it could be, as Stella says, that someone that they should know, and then creating that connection. It could be providing an insight. It could be offering them to attend some networking event or dinner that you're doing. But if you always are in the mode of giving value, you start to create a fan club. And if you stay in touch with your fan club and continue to deliver value, you essentially have Swifties like Taylor Swift, right? Where 16% of the population are Swifties, and they will do anything Taylor Swift says. And they're telling everyone else why they should know Taylor Swift. So I think our goal is to build promoters, and you don't build promoters by talking about yourself. You build promoters by delivering value to others.
Can I share one other thing, which is from networking? It's a bit of a story, but basically I was doing a keynote at a conference with 500 young entrepreneurs from 18 to 29 years old. And I said, I'm going to be here the whole day, and I want you to get my card, and I'm going to offer you a 15-minute coaching call. And this is the early parts of my business where I was trying to hustle a lot. And of the 500 people, I was there the whole day. How many people got my card? Only 75 people. Of the 75 people, how many actually followed up with a message or a text or an email? 18 people. And how many people of the 18 followed up consistently and built a relationship with me? Only 2. So you can be the 85% that does nothing in your networking event, the 15% that gets my card, the 4% that follows up, or the 0.4% that builds a relationship with me. Who do you want to be? If you want to build that brand and eventually build thought leadership brand, follow up and build those relationships.
Great stuff. Anyone else? Well, thank you. I want to thank all the inspired moneymakers for joining for this episode. A shout out to Rodrigo Borges in Brazil, who dropped some comments during the live stream. Warren Buffett once said, "I was terrified of public speaking when I was young. I couldn't do it." To improve himself, he took a public speaking course from Dale Carnegie for $100, which he said changed his life. So many great takeaways today. I love that curiosity can be an antidote to fear, and that when it comes to personal growth, you have to accept that it can and will be hard. If you're going to truly grow, it's not going to come super easily. So my call to action for everybody, go out, and I want to challenge you to take one concrete step this week toward your personal and professional growth. Identify one area that could use improvement, and then go take an online course or set small goals to boost your resilience. Maybe reach out to someone in your network to strengthen your connections. And I think, to summarize this episode, even more than taking a class, you have to go do it. Constantly do, and commit to this action and make it a priority. We'd love to hear how you make out. Share your experiences with us on social media using #InspiredMoney or in the comments section below. Let me leave you just with one more Buffett quote, since I love Warren Buffett. You'll have a more rewarding life, not only in terms of how much money you make, but how much fun you have out of life. You'll make more friends, the more interesting a person you are. So go for it. Invest in yourself. Thank you to the panelists. You can find and follow them. Bobby Umar is at, how do you say it, rayallen.com?
That's correct. Rayallen.com.
Ryland.com. R-A-E.
No, Ray Allen. Ray Allen.
Yeah,
it's a basketball player.
Okay. So RAEALLAN.com. You can find William Arruda at williamarruda.com with 2 R's. I guess 2 L's and 2 R's.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have this all in the show notes for everybody. And Stella Collins, co-founder and chief learning officer at Stellar Labs. You can find her at stellarlabs.io. And Claire Wasserman, founder of Ladies Get Paid. You can find her at clairewasserman.com or ladiesgetpaid.com. Thank you. This has been a fantastic episode with a spectacular panel. I want to thank each and every one of you. The next Inspired Money episode will be Portfolio Perspectives, Balancing Watch, Wine, and Car Investments. That's next week, Wednesday, September 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. We're going to have Jassim Al-Zarai. He's AKA Patekaholic on Instagram, and my godbrother, Nikki Baldelli Boni, who has the Cars in Tuscany YouTube channel. We're going to add a couple more panelists to the mix. It's going to be great. Until next time, do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens. Thanks, everyone.